for example, in Germany, at this house that I visited, the people who were delivered there to be ex subjects were known as the as expendables. In other
Hmm.
words, they were people that wouldn't be missed.
Ooh.
Uh, and so they would be taken into one of these cells and then subjected to all sorts of abuse. Now, when Gottlieb left the CIA 20 years later, he and his boss agreed that they should destroy all the MKUltra files. That's a federal crime. It's a felony to destroy federal property. However, that's a much smaller crime than the crimes that would have been revealed in those documents. So, from their point of view, they did the right thing. However, from our perspective as historians, unfortunately, we can only see the tip of the iceberg of what MK Ultra was and what Gottlieb did. However, we do know about some experiments, and we can put some things together, which I tried to do in Poisoner in Chief.
Hmm.
And so here's something that might have happened if you put together some of the reports. They would take some guy and place him into a uh, coffin-like closet. Then they would inject him with extreme doses of amphetamines, so he become hyperactive. And then when he reached the state of hyperactivity, they would inject him with narcotics that would send him into a coma. And then when he was in the in-between phase between hyperactivity and coma, they would inject him with various drugs, meanwhile, keeping him locked inside this cabinet, and then perhaps also subjecting him to extreme heat or cold inside there to see how much a person could take. And could you then get a person out with an empty mind that you could then use as a subject to put a new mind into? And of course, oftentimes they just went too far. Oh, that one didn't work. I guess we should try another combination. And when that guy who owns the house told me that his neighbors reported that bodies were buried in the neighborhood, those were the expendables.